Once you assign Microsoft Entra ID P2 to your tenant, you automatically unlock built-in integration between Microsoft Entra ID roles and privileged identity management. That's a major win for your security posture because now you can govern privileged access using just-in-time activation and oversight features without any extra configuration. In this lecture, you're going to understand what this integration actually means for your identity environment. You'll explore how it changes the way you onboard users into high-privilege roles and what specific actions you need to take to make sure your setup is secure from day one. Together, we'll break it all down so you can confidently implement PIM and enable just-in-time access the smart way, right from the start. Before you dive into managing access, it's important to understand what it really means when we say Entra ID roles are tightly integrated with privileged identity management. This integration gives you fine-grained control over privileged access, making it easier to enforce just-in-time permissions. To make sense of this in action, head over to the Entra Admin Center and select Roles Admins from the left-hand menu. You'll see a full list of all available roles that you can assign to users or groups, just like what's shown on your screen. Now, to get hands-on with this walkthrough, click on the top role in the list, AI Administrator, and explore how it's configured with PIM. This will help you visualize how the integration works and how role eligibility can be managed securely. Once you click on the role, you'll land on the screen you see here. This is where you manage role assignments. From this page, go ahead and click on Add Assignments. This is your entry point for assigning the role to a user or group, and it's where you begin defining how access will be granted, whether it's eligible, active, permanent, or time-bound. You're now stepping into the actual implementation of privileged access control using PIM. Now it's time for you to choose the user who should receive the AI Administrator role. On this screen, go ahead and click Select Members. You'll see a list of available users, just like in this example, where Glenn Maxwell is selected. Once you've picked the right user, click Next to move forward with defining how and when they'll have access to the role. This step is all about making sure the right person is set up to request or activate privileged access when needed. On this screen, you're defining how the user will receive the role, either as eligible or active. Since you've selected eligible, you're allowing the user to activate the role only when they need it, not by default. This is a best practice because it reduces standing privileges and lowers your risk surface. You've also checked the box for permanently eligible, which means the user can always request to activate this role without any expiration on their eligibility. The start and end date fields are grayed out since you're giving permanent eligibility. Once you click Assign, you're confirming that user will not hold the role all the time, but they'll be able to activate it through the PIM workflow whenever required, subject to the conditions you've defined elsewhere, like MFA or approval. This is how you stay in control of privileged access while enabling flexibility and maintaining strong security hygiene. Now you can see that Glenn Maxwell appears under the eligible assignments list. This confirms that you've successfully added him as an eligible user for the AI Administrator role. If you had selected the active assignment type instead, Glenn would have shown up under Active Assignments, meaning he would hold the role immediately without needing to activate it. Since you're using Privileged Identity Management the secure way, you've kept it eligible. Now, go ahead and click on the Settings tab at the top to configure how and when this eligible role can be activated. You're now looking at the role settings for the AI Administrator role. What you're seeing here are the default configurations that Microsoft Entra PIM applies automatically. But don't stop there. It's essential that you customize these settings for every privileged role you intend to manage through PIM. Why? Because tailoring options like activation duration, approval workflows, multi-factor authentication, and notifications helps you align with your organization's security policies, gain clearer visibility into how roles are being used, and enforce just-in-time access practices more effectively. To better understand how each setting works and what it impacts, go ahead and click on the Edit button. This will walk you through the flow and give you the clarity you need to configure PIM the smart way. When you assign someone as eligible for a role using Microsoft Entra PIM, they won't have that access immediately. They'll need to activate the role to use it. And this page right here is where you control the activation experience. The first setting you'll work with is Activation Maximum Duration. By default, it's set to 8 hours, which means once the user activates the role, they'll retain that access for up to 8 hours before it automatically expires. This built-in expiration is crucial for reducing long-term exposure. You can adjust the slider between 30 minutes, which is the minimum, and 24 hours, which is the maximum, depending on how much time your users truly need. Next, under On Activation, Require, you decide what extra security measures the user must complete before the role activates. None means no extra steps, generally not recommended for sensitive roles. Azure MFA means the user must pass multi-factor authentication at activation time, ideal for strengthening protection. And Conditional Access Authentication Context adds a conditional access layer where you can enforce deeper checks like device compliance, location, or risk level. You can also turn on Require Justification on activation. This forces the user to explain why they're activating the role, which helps improve auditability and accountability. Then there's the Require Ticket Information on activation setting. If your organization uses ITSM tools like ServiceNow, this is perfect. The user will have to provide a ticket number or incident reference, helping you align role usage with proper change control or incident response. Finally, for sensitive roles, you should enable Require Approval to activate. When this is on, users can't activate the role immediately. They'll need to send a request to a designated approver. This gives you an added layer of oversight and is highly recommended for roles like Global Administrator or Privileged Role Administrator. Once you've reviewed these activation settings, go ahead and click on the Assignment tab to configure how long the eligibility assignment itself should last. On the Assignment tab, you're now configuring how long users can be assigned to a role, either as eligible or active, and setting the rules that apply at the time of assignment, not when the role is activated. These settings help you define the life cycle of privileged role assignments, making sure they don't linger longer than necessary. Let's walk through each option together. First, the Allow Permanent Eligible Assignment setting. If you enable this, you can assign a user as eligible for a role with no expiration, meaning they can activate the role anytime without a time limit on eligibility. If you disable this setting, then every eligible assignment will need an explicit expiration date, helping you enforce timely reviews. Next, Expire Eligible Assignments. After 1 year, this setting ensures that eligible assignments automatically expire after 1 year unless renewed. It's a great way to keep privilege sprawl in check and maintain a habit of regular access reviews. Then you have Allow Permanent Active Assignment. When this is enabled, you can assign a user to a role as always on, without requiring them to activate it through PIM. Be cautious with this option, especially for sensitive roles, because it bypasses just-in-time activation. If you disable it, all active role assignments must have a defined end date. The Expire Active Assignments. After 6-month setting does exactly that. Active assignments will automatically expire after 6 months. This ensures that no one holds high privileges indefinitely without reassessment. Now, for added security, You can enable Require Azure Multi-Factor Authentication on active assignment. This makes users complete MFA before the role is even assigned, not just when activating it. It's a solid control, especially in high-risk environments. Finally, enable Require Justification on active assignment if you want every assignment to be documented with a reason. This helps maintain transparency and is incredibly helpful for audit trails or change review processes. Once you've finished reviewing these assignment rules, go ahead and click on the Notification tab to define how and when alerts are triggered for role activity. You're now exploring the notification settings, one of the most powerful ways to keep control and visibility over privileged role activity. These settings determine who gets notified and when across 3 key events in privileged identity management. First, when you assign someone as eligible for a role, they don't get access immediately. They'll need to activate the role later. But notifications still kick in. You, as an admin, will receive a role assignment alert, and you can also add additional recipients like other IT admins or the user's manager. You can even choose to only send critical emails, useful if you only want to be alerted on high-risk events. The user being made eligible will also get notified, and you can copy others on that message too. If the user later requests to renew or extend that eligible assignment, the designated approver will be notified immediately. Next, when you assign someone as active in a role, they get immediate standing access. As soon as that happens, a role assignment alert is sent to the admin, and the user gets a notification that they now hold that role. If the user later requests to extend or renew that access, the approver will again be notified to take action. Finally, the most critical stage, when an eligible user activates their role. This is the moment just-in-time access goes live. When it happens, you, the admin, will receive a role activation alert giving you real-time visibility. The user gets a confirmation that the role has been activated. If activation requires approval, the designated approver will also get notified right away. Why does all this matter to you? Because these notification settings are your front line for tracking every privileged action taken in your environment, keeping users informed about access changes, ensuring approvers respond quickly to time-sensitive requests, and building a strong audit trail that proves governance is in place. Once you've configured all your notification preferences, go ahead and hit Save to apply the settings. With that, your role assignment is now governed with tighter control, smarter alerts, and much better accountability thanks to PIM. One thing to remember, you'll need to go through this setup for each Entra ID or Azure role you plan to manage with PIM. There's no global configuration at the moment. Yes, the setup can feel a bit repetitive, but the security and compliance value you get from it is absolutely worth it. And just like that, you've now mastered how to configure PIM role settings in Microsoft Entra ID.